Hey guys, so I wanted to talk today about the step in the manifestation process, the one that is the hardest probably for almost everybody, which is not reading meaning into the things that are happening in your day-to-day life. This is the key. Wallace Waddles says you need to be able to see truth, not appearances, meaning the thing that you have decided is the truth, the intention that you have made, the desire that you have, and the certainty that that's going to happen. That's got to be the truth for you, not able to be swayed by something that happens in your reality that you're reading meaning into that may not even mean what you think it means. That almost always, if not always, doesn't mean what you think it means. This step is the real stinker. It's the real challenging one. And it's also one that has, I think, been, again, just sort of oversimplified. It's like, it's like that simple 4-step process where it's, do this, question mark, profit. It's like, well, what's the question mark step? That's the step where you ignore the reality. What does that really mean? And that also, I also just take issue with ignoring. I mean, you do need to ignore the reality, but that step where you react to everything is also, that's useful for you personally to change into somebody who doesn't have that reaction anymore. So, let's take a money example. Let's just say that, you're in poverty and you've been in poverty and you're changing your mind about that. You've changed your mind about the fact that it's always going to be that way. You've risen above that and you're taking the first step towards that. And you see a little progress, right? You move forward a little bit. Things get a little more comfortable. Maybe you get a little break. Maybe you get a little sign of life, and you get really happy and excited about it. And then something happens. A typical event that you have experienced a million times happens and it knocks you back down. And you're right back where you've been in the past. And so basically your cycle's playing out right now all over again. And you're like, well, this is proof that this doesn't work, right? This is proof I'm just going to always keep going back to this. That's the thing right there that's useful. That step right there. Because if you've been experiencing something over and over and over again, the reason, the explanation for that is that it's based, this outer experience that's playing out over and over again is based on a big set of beliefs that you have. And so when something happens that knocks you back down, which this, if you think about it, it's absolutely logical that it would. It's explainable, It takes a minute for things to change. And even if things are working beautifully, it makes sense that some of the things that you've set in motion in the past would come forward, the chickens come home to roost, essentially. Stuff that you have set into motion in the past will then essentially flower and bloom in the present, in an unpleasant kind of way. So it's really kind of meaningless in the grand scheme of things working out or not. But you don't take it that way. Let's say some people coast through this, ride it out, and move forward. That's great. It's really difficult. So people that are struggling with that, like it's cool. Like this is not easy shit, and don't let anybody tell you that it is. For a lot of people, in a lot of ways, this is not easy, and that is fucking fine. Fuck them, okay? Fuck the people that just fuck them. Just fuck them. One of my number one life philosophies: just fuck them. So, let's say that happens to you. Like example, I guess, let's say that, you're like rising a little bit out of this poverty. You have some money in the bank. Let's say you've got $500 in the bank that you don't immediately need for your basic existence. And you're thinking, okay, I'm building up a little bit of money. I've got a job that pays a little bit more. And let's say you lose your job, or you have an unexpected expense that eats all your savings, and you're back at zero. You're back at that point where you're freaking out. And at that point, the thoughts that you have, the reactions that you have to that situation are going to tell you what beliefs are still running. And it's as simple as that. if you find yourself having this reaction, you're unable to not have a reaction, or not have a strong reaction, or not have a short reaction. You know, I have short, violent reactions to things. Not outwardly violent, but I have short, like, bursts, and then they're gone. That's just how it works for me at this point. You know, before, the short burst would turn into a long period of being, like, pissed off, or taking actions and stuff that did nothing for me or made my situation worse. Now it's just like boom, and it's gone. So that's, you know, over a long period of time of monitoring this and attempting to correct it and all of that and exercising that muscle, you know, that's eventually how for one person it's ended up playing out. Short, violent, over. Or short, non-violent, and over. I don't generally wallow in things for long periods of time. But when you have these reactions, it'll tell you, if you're not able to just like get past it right away, you're going to see what's still there. You're going to see, I still think I'm stuck in generational poverty. This is in my DNA, and this is just my lot in life. Something will always happen to bring me back to this point. Stuff like that. That's the stuff then that's valuable, because you know what's still running in there. And, you know, accepting that it's going to take a little time to undo those things. A lot of people don't like that. A lot of people are in this for the smash and grab, get shit right away without having to change yourself as a person at all. Hopefully, if you're on my channel, you have already proven to yourself that it largely doesn't work like that, especially in areas of your life that are a problem, an ongoing problem. So there's value in that reaction. There's nothing that's wasted here. If you are able to ride that outer thing out without having a major reaction to it, just chilling out, doing something else, not allowing yourself to have that physical reaction of like, you know, I'm doomed, that kind of thing. That's great. That's awesome. You've made progress. You know, you'll progress forward. You'll progress forward. But if you don't, if you're not able to do that, then there's value in your reaction for you, so that you can see what it is that, you know, you need to, I don't know, in my opinion, and this is just me, and really, I think you need to go based on how you feel if you do this. For me, I like to look at the things I'm believing from an objective standpoint. Like I'm a lawyer, and I'm, you know, finding a way to pick apart this case so that there's reasonable doubt, so that it'll be not guilty, essentially. You know, the verdict will be not guilty. When I look at something that is happening mentally for me, I like, you know, it works for me to get rid of it. It works. It's useful. It doesn't make the problem worse, I guess is what I'm saying. If I realize I have a belief about myself that is causing me to have a reaction to something, thinking about it doesn't bring me down. It almost brings me up in a way, because I'm like, I can solve this. I know this is just a belief. I know this is just a line of code in this program. And it almost excites me. It's like the opposite of wallowing. It's the opposite. Just because I think, you know, I think I personally am at a point where I've just had too much evidence. I don't have doubt anymore. For people that have doubt, it might just be better to turn your attention away from it. It might just be better to recognize it and say, okay, I'm not going to think about this. I don't know what exactly the right way is for you. But there is value when you realize you're still having that huge reaction. You know, you may be thinking that this thing that you're trying to get, that your life is riding on it. And you have a violent, long, depressive reaction to anything happening that seems to threaten you getting that thing. I don't know. You could watch my channel if you want some discussion about that. 3D external things are not the providers of peace, happiness, comfort, self-worth. They just aren't. That stuff all comes from a philosophy and orientation towards life that includes seeing yourself in a way that is not painful, includes an understanding of how much you're really going to get out of things in the world in terms of physical pleasure or happiness, you know, fulfillment. The way you experience things in the 3D is almost entirely dependent on how you experience just everything in your mind. There's no separation between those two things. So, you know, if you're kind of a miserable person, you're going to quickly become miserable with anything you get. It's just, it's you. It's always you. There's nothing and no one to change but self. So yeah, I don't know. I hope that was helpful for somebody. Someone had mentioned on, I think on Tim did a group session that's on his site, it's on his channel. And somebody in there had talked about how they got kind of like triggered by the science of, when I read The Science of Getting Rich, they were like listening to that, they got kind of triggered because it's so difficult to be certain that something that you're so used to happening, that just feels like a truth, that just feels like part of you. Like, how do you be certain about that thing changing? And that kind of like was a trigger. And I think that's great. Like, that's useful. You can work with that. Like, you know, so you know what it is. She defined it. Like, I have generational poverty. Like, I've been experiencing that. How can I be certain that that's going to change? Like, this is the way it is. This is the way it's been. I mean, that's the thing about some of these beliefs. It can be almost impossible to say that's just a belief, because it is so a part of your world. It is so a part of you. It's just a truth. I mean, this is how I experienced the belief that I was essentially a bad person that I had sort of become aware of and made into a good person. You know, I was just always like, yeah, but the core is rotten. I know that. I can never forget that. Like, what an insane thing to believe. It seems so crazy now. But like that, if you believe something like that and you're like, no, that is true. I know that's true. I was there. I experienced being that rotten core. What? I didn't even. That's the crazy thing about it. Like, you can be living deep in a delusion that feels so much like truth. You are living deep in a delusion that feels so much like truth. We all are. But like, that is something, it's such a truth that you don't even see it. That's the thing. When it's so big and it's in so many things, you know, think about it. That's your truth. So of course you're living it. I mean, man, these things are huge. And when you change them, that's the thing. Like, that's what I hope people can get excited about, is these things that feel like truth that are bad. None of them are true. They're either not true, or your perception that they're bad is wrong. Like, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. The all good is waiting there for you to find it. This is very exciting. Anyway, I'm just going to end that there. I don't even remember how I started this video. But I hope there was something in here for somebody. And, yeah. Have a great day.